welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 348. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. Book Insight Friday. You guys know what time it is. We're delving into A Woman's Worth Part 4. A Woman's Worth Part 4. 6-book series. This is going to be another good one today. I'm going to kind of talk about this book and the whole shebang. All right, so the whole process of writing the book, that is podcast episode number 147. If you want to listen to that, I don't like to, go through the repeat process of, talking about how I wrote a book and why and all this other stuff when I've already done it already. It'd be like a repeat episode. Like, it's kind of annoying, like when you are ready to watch your TV show and then you come and you go on and then you realize it's a repeat and you're just like, great, thanks. Yeah. So anyway, so it's podcast episode number 147. If you don't feel like scrolling like a crazy person on like any of those podcast platforms, you can go to my website, which is theaquarianmindpodcast.com. You can click on episodes. You can find a Women's Worth series, and then boom, you find the episode that you need. All right, so let's jump into it. The synopsis of this is the focus on mental health, so I'm going to read that to you real quick. So, women's mental health is a topic that gets discussed, but not enough in today's world. And Patricia, the main character, is someone who is on the path to becoming a better woman and not caving into the pressures of what the world wants her to be. She chronicles her story as a recovering alcohol addict, and her story starts from childhood all the way to the present day. Her struggles, home life, and how she got to becoming an alcohol addict along with recovering. It's not an easy journey, and sometimes we don't know what women are going through mentally, emotionally, and spiritually until we sit and listen to their stories. Everyone has a story. It's just a matter of whether we are empathetic enough to listen. So that's the breakdown of that. So we're going to delve into the chapter layout. So there's introduction, childhood, teenage years, college life, graduation / corporate America, friendships / relationships, escaping, hiding the truth, rock bottom, recovery, resistance, loving myself first, uncomfortable conversations, a negative world, and it's just the beginning. So those are the chapters. This book is about 60 pages, give or take. I try not to overwrite things too much, and I do write in a prose format. It's not the traditional book that you would normally read. So just giving you all the heads up in regards to that. All right, so here's the introduction. This will not be an easy story to tell. See, I'm a recovering alcohol addict. There's a lot to explain on how I got to that place. It's emotional thinking about it as I wrote this. This is my story, Patricia Wells, former alcoholic. I'm here to tell my story because we as women suffer. I just drove past a liquor store and the temptation was there. My mind drifted to that place of escape from reality with a bottle of liquor. Anything would suffice when I was in a bad place. My mind wasn't in the right state, and now I'm taking it one day at a time. My mental health has been in limbo for decades. The world has brought me to this place of recovery. I wish I would have gotten the help I needed early on. I had no direction as the bottle of liquor became my sanctuary. It became my safe haven to escape so much. This is a warning to you all. A lot of my story will bring shock value. Just know that loving yourself is not easy, as we all grow and love differently. Come and take a walk with me. Listen to my story. Let me tell you how a woman failed and got back up. A woman who was on the verge of death, as my guardian angels were by my side when death was at my front door. We all know that a lot of what happens to us starts somewhere. It's time to talk about my childhood and how dysfunctional it was. So that was the introduction. All right, so let's delve into childhood. Endless parties every weekend, it never mattered. Someone's birthday, a barbecue, graduation, or just getting together. Beer, liquor, and wine. It was everywhere and at everyone's disposal. As a young child, I remembered a lot of drunk family members weekly. Whoever owned the house, the bar was in the basement. Sneaking to get a sip of something was normal for us kids. From my brothers and sisters to my cousins, we all did it. Our game was truth or dare, and most of the time we dared each other to do crazy things. Waiting for our alcoholic family members to be belligerently out of control, where they resorted to going outside to act a fool, leaving their drinks unattended. At 6 years old, I was experimenting with different beers and liquors. My mom and dad didn't care. They normalized this after a while. They were alcoholic deviants, and they admittedly told us this. Two dysfunctional, hurt human beings trying to escape the hell in their minds. A childhood that I couldn't begin to talk about as I'm writing about mine, knowing that an argument would ensue if the wrong thing was said by one of my parents. The verbal abuse from my father, the vitriol that came from my mother's mouth. If liquor was involved, it was a never-ending battle of wills to see who would win an argument. Violence ensued not too long after I was born. My brother is traumatized till this day of what he's seen with his own eyes. A docile human being, he is at a point where liquor soothes his woes. I'd become that same person in woman form as time went on. My elementary school years consisted of my weekends at someone's house, sleeping on the floor of one of my cousin's rooms where the males would touch me inappropriately. It's something I never talked about until now. It's pain I've kept in for decades. Another normalized aspect of my family where it's hear nothing, see nothing type of structure. My brother did what he could to protect me, but my cousins were older, bigger, and stronger. Let's just say years later, my brother got the revenge necessary and my cousins are nowhere to be seen. Moving to the high ranks of law enforcement will give you power and authority, and my cousins lived a life of hell for over a decade due to my brother. While as children we understood what alcohol can do to you, it didn't matter. We became intrigued on how to get to that mental state your older family members are in. It became the same repetitive cycle of knowing what's going to happen weekly. I was hiding a secret from my family. I was insecure about my existence, and I knew what it took to escape it all. None of this was getting any easier for me, and I had to find ways to get access to liquor daily. Open access came during my teenage years, and it was downhill from there. All right, so that was the first chapter. All right, I'm going to be very kind and delve into one more chapter, and then I'm gonna call it a podcast, and know that I'm going to leave the links for you to delve into this book more. All right, so teenage years. I caught in the madness of what my parents would do, just so they can get through their days at work. A flask of liquor to sip on would soothe them. A trip to a bar in town after work for my dad would cure his rough, rugged day. He worked in a plant putting cars together for over 3 decades. The toll it took on his body was him weak and drained in his retirement days. My teenage years consisted of erratic behavior where I did anything for a sip of alcohol. Liquor became my forte as I didn't care for the taste of beer. Invitations to parties was a constant occurrence my high school days, where I'd get drunk enough to feel nice and be in a blurred reality of my existence. I wasn't the prettiest girl and my skin was full of acne. Fitting in was hard for me to do, so I became the fun girl everywhere I went. I'd do anything for attention, such as be goofy, joke around, and pull stunts on people. Class clown was an underrated definition of who I was, but I was hiding my pain. Puberty, hormones, acne, it all affected me, and social media didn't help me. Looking at myself, my beauty standards didn't match what everyone is accustomed to. I deal with a lot in my mind mentally on a daily basis, knowing that a drink is only a few feet away in the basement of my house. Dealing with so much in my head, there's so much pain in my heart. I live with this pain every day, and it keeps me up at night. Pain of what my male cousins did to me, pain of what my parents were, pain of not knowing who I was as an adolescent teenager and feeling lost. Being the fun girl got me invited to so many places, daring me to do embarrassing things as long as they provided me the liquor I craved. Most school days were a complete blur as I was inebriated. Lunch breaks would consist of sipping liquor behind the bushes in the back of my school. At home, my dad built a bar in the basement of his man cave. I'd sneak down there and pour some liquor into my flask I stole from him. He had so many bottles of liquor and various flasks, he really didn't pay attention to anything missing as he wasn't fully functional most days. The only attention to detail he had was in his paycheck. The rest of the time he was sitting on the couch watching fantasy television and escaping through his liquor. His escape became something I wanted to do myself. Nothing made sense in my life, and I didn't want to live anymore. There was nothing but turmoil wherever the hell I was, whether it was my parents fighting or classmates fighting at school. I was a functional alcoholic where I somehow did well in class. It was only when alcohol infiltrated my bloodstream before I walked through the hallways of my high school. I was sipping before I had my BLTs most mornings. My body becomes immune to the liquor after a while. Getting through my 4 years was nothing short of hell, as I no longer cared to learn the content that was being taught to us. I was too busy learning how to get access to alcohol. My learning curve was how to hide my liquor in my flask. Bathroom breaks between class to sip what's in my pocket, to get through my days and escape the messed up reality I live in. I couldn't wait to graduate and get away from this life. College wasn't far away, as I was accepted into a few schools of my choice. The options were there for the taking. I can stay close to home or run far away, start my life fresh and new, and keep my addiction and pain to myself. The dysfunction in my home was enough to make me go crazy enough to potentially move across the country to escape the madness. To celebrate, liquor will surely be involved with friends. They had bars in their basements, and the liquor was calling my name. Coming home drunk became the norm in my household. My parents were too dazed in their own drunkenness to notice my inebriation. My friends and classmates were starting to notice the fun in me. Only consisted of me getting belligerently drunk to hide my sorrows and insecurities. My high school years were a blur, and most of it was school days, where my days, D-A-Z-E, by the way, were spent being someone I truly wasn't. Don't ask me how I maintained a solid grade point average, or how I managed to stay on the honor roll while suffering and dealing with a dangerous addiction. Being a rebel was the majority of what my teenage years consisted of, along with bad decisions with boys who never cared for me unless liquor was in me. It's the early years of my young girls' lives where all of the danger signs are shown. It's just whether you have the right people around you to shield you from a lot of it. Sexcapades and drunken episodes of insecurity lived within me, along with experimentation of various liquors that would go dangerously wrong at times. It didn't stop me from continuing my dangerous habit. Knowing that I'll be graduating soon, the celebrations will consist of alcohol. Late nights, not being able to sleep, insomnia was in full force, looking for anything to sip on just to ease the tension going on upstairs. The voices in my head playing tricks on me every night, telling me I'm not worthy and what happened to me I deserved. It got to a place where I felt it was true, as I continued to hide my secrets. I wanted this all to end, but there was no way out for me, at least not right now. Graduation came, and it was a joyous time as I hid my pain through smiles, joy, happiness on the outer part of my existence. Liquor was everywhere, and it was surely to be my escape for today, and throughout the summer there would be plenty of parties to attend. With our town, there were plenty of places to go party, where we wouldn't be bothered, especially in the woods by the lake. My parents aren't in tune with any of us. They had their own struggles. There were never any conversations about my well-being or mental health. If I was healthy physically, I'm good enough in their eyes. It made me draw back to when my grandparents were alive and how they treated my parents. Yes, I'm talking about both sides, my mom and my dad's parents. My grandparents all died within 4 years of my high school days. They were amazing human beings when it came to the treatment of us. In regards to my parents, they were tough and harsh on them, and I wondered why. I always hope I'd find out so I can understand a lot of things. You know, why I had the childhood I did, because most of raising of children is passed down generationally. It seems like the diary of my life can only be written in a sober state of mind, where I can reflect on my alcoholic days of uncertainty, of whether I wanted to live out my life. Summer became a blurry vision of clouded thoughts and liquored nights. After that, I'd work my summer day job at a supermarket making minimum wage. My paychecks would go to my drinking habit, and the rest would get saved. I wanted to make sure I'm good when I go away to college. It's scary that I'm going away to college, but I'm ready. New beginnings, as my teenage years are coming to an end. So, that's the story of Patricia on A Woman's Worth Part 4. Mental health is important. We have to make sure that we are not falling into the pitfalls of addiction and all of the things that we do to try to escape all the time in life. I write these stories for a purpose and reason, and I hope that you take time to look into this book. So, A Woman's Worth Part 4 is available on thebookpatch.com. If you do go onto my website and you go into the Woman's Worth series, you'll be able to find them in paperback format. Or you can go on to thebookpatch.com, type in Jamel Crothers in the search engine in the bookstore, and all of my books will pop up. All right, everyone, that is my podcast for today. I want to thank you for listening. As always, have a good week. Have a good weekend, actually. Be good and go accomplish your goals.